Well, I'm sure you knew this one was coming. At number 4, we got Final Fantasy VII. Not really sure what I can say about this game that hasn't been said repeatedly, so I'll keep it brief. Basically, this game is famous for a reason. It's got a good story, not the greatest in the world, and not as good as some people like to make it out to be, but still, I would say a very good one in the grand scheme of things. It's got a good combat engine. This is kind of the height, as far as I'm concerned, of the Final Fantasy turn-based combat. I think it kind of went down from here. It's especially true for 8. 9 picked up a little bit, but I don't know, not as much as 7. I mean, it didn't quite make it back to the standard that they set in 7. This game also had some really great characters. Every time I see Squall and his fur-encrusted, emo, retarded, whiny bitch self, it makes me want to throw up. People complain about Cait Sith being annoying, but frankly I would take him any day over either Tidus or Squall. I mean, at least Cait Sith isn't the embodiment of every annoying, ridiculous anime cliche that you can possibly think of. Oh, and listening to his dialogue for more than 5 seconds doesn't make you want to stab your eyes out. But trying to compare later Final Fantasy protagonists to, say, Barret or Cid, just makes me dizzy thinking about it. But alas, I digress. Basically, my point here is this is a really good game and you should check it out if you haven't already. But, I mean, if you haven't, well, where the hell have you been? I guess is all I can really say about it. Okay, at number 3, we got Chrono Trigger. Man, I really, really love this game. It's just so epic in every sense, both technologically for the time and in the actual scope of the game. There was really nothing quite like this when it came out. It's got a great story. It was actually one of the earliest RPGs to feature multiple endings. I mean, there were a few things that did it, like Final Fantasy V, but it wasn't nearly as in-depth as what they did with Chrono Trigger. Basically, the people you would see in the credits would be different, but that was about it. In Chrono Trigger, the individual endings are much more unique. And really that idea, I think, became popular thanks to this game. And obviously the graphics were pretty amazing for the time. I mean, there are a few things that are comparable, like Star Ocean, Tales of Phantasia, I guess Final Fantasy VI and Secret of Mana. But there's really very few games that can compare to Chrono Trigger. This game is a real shining testament to what's now become known as the Squaresoft Dream Team, and their presence is quite apparent in this title. I mean, everything about it has the mark of quality, from the music to the character designs to the story. I mean, it's just all around just a really top-notch RPG. It had a lot of side quests and eventually became pretty open-ended, which I liked a lot. And I mean, come on, it's got time travel. How cool is that? I mean, I realize that's become kind of cliche now, but it was pretty cool back in the day. And it's in no small part because oftentimes when time travel is implemented in games, it's usually not well done and usually falls into a lot of plot holes that really just kind of take away from the experience. It usually just feels like something they threw in there for the hell of it. But, I mean, I think it's a testament to the quality of the writing that, I mean, and I'm sure there's probably some freak out there who's, you know, carefully cataloged all of the storyline and everything that happens in the game and figured out some anomaly, but in general, I mean, they kept it together really well, surprisingly. I actually can't really think of anything bad to say about this game, and I guess that's just a sign that it's good stuff. After all that, you're probably thinking, well, what could possibly be better than that? And to be fair, you know, the top 3 in this list were very, very hard for me to make a final decision on, because they're all just such great games. But coming in at number 2 is the game Tales of Phantasia. Now, this game only came out in Japan, so I didn't play it until, I guess it was about 7 years ago. And up until that point, I always just considered Chrono Trigger my favorite RPG on the Super Nintendo. But man, this game is awesome. And if you are a fan of, you know, the old Super Nintendo RPGs, then I would really encourage checking this one out. Just so many things that I just love about this game. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, the story's great, the characters are great, the battle system was and still is incredibly unique for RPGs. I mean, it's not really just it's not a turn-based system. Some people have compared it to something more along the lines of a fighting game. I wouldn't go that far, but I guess it is at least derivative of 2D fighting games. Basically, it's all real time, so it feels, I don't know, I guess more frantic than a turn-based battle system. But it plays really well, and it's really satisfying. The music in this game is incredible, and the intro music actually has streamed voices, which was a first for the Super Nintendo. All the attacks have their names announced vocally as well. The game was also the first 48 meg cartridge. So, a lot of technical achievements for this game, really. The game was also one of the earliest RPGs, to my knowledge, that featured the now common feature among RPGs known as the secret dungeon. I'm sure there probably was something before it, but this is the first one that I'm aware of. And, you know, it was really fun. There was lots of really high-end secret loot. All the best stuff in the game you could get in there. The game also has a lot of side quests for stuff like extra summons and spells and things like that, which is always a plus in my book. This game also features time travel, though it's not nearly as significant as it is in Chrono Trigger. It doesn't play nearly as big a role. But having said that, it is implemented well in this game, like in Chrono Trigger. And the story itself is quite good. I mean, right up there with Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VII or any other great RPG. There's also this almost inexplicable quality to it that kind of sets it apart from Squaresoft games. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there are a lot of Squaresoft games that I like, but many of them have sort of a similar feel to them. I guess a flavor could be one way you could put it. And this one, you can just kind of tell it was made by a different group of people, which, I mean, it's beneficial as far as I'm concerned because it gives it more of a unique feel. One thing I will say is, if you're going to play this game, do not play the Game Boy Advance version. I have played it, and it is really bad by comparison to both the Super Nintendo and PlayStation versions, both of which have full English translations. So if you're going to play this game, play one of those versions.